real friends, loving, laughing, and learning together. Sharing stories, one life at a time. So grab a seat. Welcome to Joni Table Talk.
Well, the Bible tells us that a house divided against itself cannot stand. So how do we bring healing to the growing divisions across America? Today, we'll hear how our special guests are working to bring healing and restoration to communities here in the U.S. and how you can get involved. Joining me around the table is Toni, Brinker, Pickens. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
So good to have you.
Thank you.
It is exciting that in the midst of chaos and confusion that God can raise people up to try to make a difference, and that's what you're trying to do.
I'm doing my best, I can assure you. So
we're excited you're here. Dorothy Newton, how are you?
Doing great. So honored to be here. Joni, I just have to say, on my way here today, I was just overwhelmed by your love and the things you and Marcus do to reach so many people around the world. So thank you.
Oh, thank you for being here, and you're always such a blessing. Rebecca Lamb, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good.
Are you? Pretty good. Are you
Always,
ready?
I'm blessed.
Well, you know, you're going to be in a role-in a little bit later on where you actually went to one of the events
Yes, I am.
that Toni was a part of. Are you excited about that?
I'm always excited about everything.
Cindy Murdoch, how are you?
I'm great, thank you. It's great to be here today.
It's always wonderful topics that we have around the table.
Oh, my goodness. And if people will be attentive and just stop what they're doing and really listen. A lot of times people watch the show and they're doing other things at the same time.
Yeah.
But I would say just stop and listen, because you're going to learn a lot about what you can do as a civilian and as a person to enhance the unity within our nation.
Yes, and to combat racism.
Yes.
Which is very alive and living and breathing today. Our special guest, Bishop Harry Jackson, back at the table. Welcome.
Thank you.
Appreciate you always being willing to come and talk about the controversy, but in a Christ-like way. It kind of wants to bring us together. I said before that we started today, you and Toni are both unifiers, and we must come together in unity.
Well, I appreciate your openness and what you said. You exemplify the values that we hold dear. And if you look at the staff, you look at the program, you'll see unity in action, generationally, culturally, racially. You're doing a great job of modeling what the body of Christ should be about.
No, we are a mixed bunch here at Daystar for sure.
Not mixed up, but
not
mixed.
mixed up. Mixed.
We are mixed up.
We have every color and age and size and creed. And I'm telling you, but it's a beautiful family here at Daystar. Well, with the recent events in Charlottesville, Virginia, we've once again faced with the ugly truth. Hate still operates in America. So what do we do? And how do we unite our communities? The same thing happening over and over again.
Well,
what say you?
What I'd say in a nutshell is this: we have to have macro strategies and micro strategies. Toni's work is a micro, boots on the ground strategy. The macro strategy is very simple. We have to pray for those who are in authority. And then we have to really love one another. And that love has got to put on working clothes.
Right.
It's one thing to say, I love you, and give the peace sign. It's another thing to come to the place where I need aid, to reach out and help and make a difference. And so that's what I love about what Toni is doing. And a few years ago, I felt the Lord called me to speak out on some of these things. But I felt what he showed me was that there are people like Toni and others who can't be at the table today who are actually doing this. And that if we would just do more of what these pioneers are doing, then we could solve what we think are huge problems in our lifetime.
So let's talk a little bit about what happened in Virginia. What is your take on that?
Well, I, like others, want to renounce the KKK's involvement. That is really crazy. My father told me stories about when he was a kid living in South Georgia. walking his paper route and seeing people hanging from trees, had been lynched. On more than one occasion, told me a story about a man who was set on fire while he was alive after being tortured and burned to death, dragged to the town square. So in light of that, anybody who would advocate that kind of behavior, they're not acting in the best interest of the nation. So I think that we have our focus on the wrong thing. What Mr. Trump said or didn't say is not the real issue. What I'm concerned about is we'll get mad, we'll throw some projectiles, so to speak, figuratively speaking, at somebody, make them the issue, and then we'll go back home, and when the violence is past, we go back to sleep. Yep. We won't do anything that matters.
Yes.
So the macro strategy of praying and then unifying and then working together on some of the micro, and that it just means it's localized. These steps of action will heal the nation, and I think we've got a great opportunity.
You know, something interesting that happened, you remember, because you were there last summer. We have a lake house, and our neighbors, which I don't know that well because we only go there, you know, every once in a while on the weekend and holidays, you know, with the kids and enjoy that. We're so busy here working all the time. But they had, it was right on the line of our property, and the houses are pretty close, and we have a dock, and it was a huge Confederate flag. Oh. And when I looked out the window, all of my kids were like, why do they have that flag out there like that? And I was just like, you know, I was born in South Carolina. I understand, you know, some of the thinking and mentality and some of the, especially the older people that have lived there. So I'm a Southern girl, but to me, it represents such divisiveness and serves no good purpose. Yeah. And so, again, we're faced with, I mean, here I am a white American, if you will, although I do have American Indian as well. You know, what do I do? We're there with my kids and my grandkids. And so, I mean, I went next door and I said, can I just ask you a question? Like, why are you flying that flag? And I said, and they were like, because we're proud of it, or something like that. And very smart aleck response. And I said, well, it's so close to my property. I said, I don't want people to think that I would fly a flag like that on my property. And I remember they got so mad at me. And I stayed very kind, but I just said, I don't like what it represents. And I voiced my opinion. Needless to say, this summer, we haven't seen the flag, so I don't know if that did any good or not. But, I mean, are there times where, Toni, I'll speak to you, where we need to speak up if we see injustice or something that's causing division as it relates to racism?
I think you should do it every time. But I think you have to, again, stand up, speak out, but do it in the right way.
Right.
Okay?
Not with violence.
Not with violence.
Not with hatred.
Not with hatred, and not with some innuendo, and you kind of head down the road all in curves. That's not going to help our nation. Yeah. So symbols, there's a time to put a symbol away, and this is the time. Yeah. There's a time for people to say it's time to unite. There's a time that says it doesn't make any difference who you are, what color your hair is, what color your skin is, what nationality you are, how even your belief in God might be slightly different than mine. But let's all say that we're believers, but let's do this together. Yeah. And so from my perspective, deep within the communities, on both the micro level, which leads to the macro level, which leads to the micro level, which leads to the macro level. We need to, again, become one and step across that starting line at the same time and say, we're going to make a change and we're going to do it the right way. So every time do it, but do it the right way.
Do it the right way. And Dorothy, I know she's always taking my hand going, Joni, be careful. But I mean, in reality, if more people would speak up, it would make a difference.
You always use wisdom, though, Joni, so I appreciate that. But I think what happens as well is that we do it when there's a flare, when something happens. And then, you know, like you said, we're all asleep. Instead of consistently communicating the change that needs to happen. And it really starts with us talking about it more often than just when something happens. I mean, we have to do it consistently all the time.
You know, Becca, you said something to me, of course, your generation and social media, and you're like, oh my goodness, Mom, social media. And you had a comment I thought was really powerful as it relates to people were saying, well, if you didn't post something, that you were racist. I mean, if you didn't react, and like you said, in the flare-up. And what did you say to that, to me, about love?
Well, I don't know exactly what I said, so you might have to remind me because we talk a lot. But I just said that, you know, posting on social media, while it can serve a good purpose, usually just causes more division. It's not the best way to have a conversation with someone. You should have conversations, intentional conversations, where you really listen to someone and hear them out in person. And I think in real life, one of the best ways to combat stuff like this is to have relationships with people who are different than you and to reach across the aisle and say, I want to hear your heart, I want to hear your perspective. For me, what this really boils down to from our perspective as believers, why is this so important to us? Why does the gospel, you know, motivate us to fight injustice, to fight racism? Well, it goes back down all the way back into Genesis when God said, let us make man in our image. All of mankind, Imago Dei, is made in the image of God, is priceless. Jesus died for every person. And that in his eyes, everyone is important. And Jesus, one of the things I love about him is that in his time, he was saying things that were so countercultural, bringing the kingdom of God to earth. And when he talks, this man asks, he says, well, who is my neighbor? And he tells the story about the Good Samaritan and how what I didn't know until I was in Bible school was that story is with a Samaritan is that Jews and Samaritans did not get along. They were like had some of the strongest tension. And yet here is this story about these two people helping each other. And he says, the very person that you despise the most is your neighbor, and I'm telling you to love him.
Very good.
That's good. That'll preach right there.
That'll preach, absolutely.
So I know you had a comment, Cindy.
Well, because I do feel like oftentimes people feel like they've done their part if they put something on social media, rather than developing and building a relationship. And the thing that I thought about that was that we often want to type out words, we want to tweet, or we want to say something that when people read it, they don't hear our heart or our emotion or what we're feeling in it. But when I sit with you face to face, you're going to hear my heart.
Yes.
You're going to know me. And so I think it has to come out of social media and begin to become relationships.
Yeah, because
like
social media is so one-sided, and it's kind of like a false relationship. It's not really real, and it's, like I said, it's not the best way to do it. And like, I totally agree with you. It's like we have to build that relationship in real life. We have to love people in real life, I think, to really begin to make a difference.
And as Christian believers, what hurts me should hurt you.
Yes.
You
Exactly,
know?
yeah.
And I think that's a missing point.
And I think about that scripture that says, you know, we wrestle not against flesh and blood.
Yes.
I mean, when we understand that the divider of dividers is in the middle of all this, you know, and not that you say the devil makes you do everything, but there is a real enemy out there that's seeking to kill, steal, and destroy. And I think you said it earlier, Toni, that's why you have to get the faith-based community involved.
You must.
Yes.
Because God is an important denominator in all this, right?
Oh, absolutely. We've got to do some specific things, though. Right now, what I'm finding with the white community versus black and brown, we as minorities have been motivated for justice for a long time, to the point that some of us have gotten angry and bitter, unfortunately. As we address our anger and bitterness, what we need is some kind of way to prioritize our interaction. Love in working clothes is what we need, not just love. So service, what do? What I like about Operation Blue Shield is there is a plan that you can enter into with her organization that can help a community walk down the steps of starting with unity, ending with a changed community. Unfortunately, we want to push a button and make magical things happen instead of by faith working and walking together. So I think the more we can talk about what we should do next, I think would be really important. So I'm glad we're going to talk about Operation Blue Shield, but education, there needs to be a reform there, meaning little black and brown kids who can't read at grade level, they're never going to get a good job. Boom, in the thought.
Yeah.
So the churches that are in that community, they can blame the system, the man, whoever the man is. I haven't met him yet. But whoever that guy is, and you don't let your kids get the benefit of our collective understanding of raising our kids.
Right.
See, this is what blacks can do without any whites, what Hispanics can do without any blacks or whites. We could do certain things that'll make a difference, but we tend to want to complain rather than to pray and then let God speak to us about our own actions.
That's good.
So may
That's
I
good.
add a little caveat to that too, and I totally agree with you. A lot of times I will hear, we want justice, and I will say, ooh, as a white woman, I hear a different word or different meaning if it comes from, say, an African-American man. And I said, what I hear you say is you want justice by 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. And I'm going to tell you, I will work with you hand in glove from here to the moment I take my last breath. But justice won't come by 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, and it will not come without your help. So work with me, but let's have realistic goals. So we cannot change our neighborhoods overnight. But if we work together, we can certainly exponentially move our neighborhoods forward.
Yeah, so good.
It is so important that we keep reality and forget what we are being told over and over and over again, this, that, and whatever. Let's base it on our love of God, our heart, the man and woman sitting across from us, and let's hold hands and walk together.
That's good. That's good. Well, building a strong community starts with unity, just like Toni was talking about. And through her work with Operation Blue Shield, Toni Pickens is working to bring together first responders with the community that they serve. Recently, they held a community event at the Frisco Rough Riders Stadium, and I had my daughter Rebecca go out to talk to those involved in putting on this very special event. Take a look.
Hey guys, we are here at Operation Blue Shield putting on this amazing event at the Rough Riders Stadium, and I am joined with Miss Toni. Thank you so much for letting us be here.
Our ultimate goal is to bring communities, that citizens like you and me and all of our children and all, together with our first responders and build safe neighborhoods. And when you build a safe neighborhood, you build a safe and resilient country.
One of the things I want to at least say from what occurred last year, the positive part from last year, if there is any, is that the community came out and supported us unconditionally. We couldn't have gotten through what we got through and survived without the support that we've got from the community.
Operation Blue Shield really accentuates the unity and community, and that's the different segments of our neighborhoods and our cities coming together, but it's also our community coming together with our first responders.
We support Operation Blue Shield. Operation Blue Shield, I think once people get the message, they would get behind it. I think that's part of the deal is we've got to get the message out of what Toni's done, what she started, why she started, what's it trying to accomplish. Tonight's helping that.
Exactly, big events like this, and I think it's so important to build a community, to build relationship.
It was amazing.
When you talk about all in, it's just not the economic aspect that's important to us. It's important to us to give back to the communities as well. So our events with Coffee with a Cop, to have some of that great coffee that you enjoy.
I love it.
Cops on a Rooftop. We do all that in great cities like Frisco and soon-to-be Grand Prairie and those kind of things. So it's not only the economic importance for us and our franchisees to have the profitability, but it's important for us to give back to the communities and be part of that cohesive network that you talk about, Toni, relative to unity and being able to continue to move things forward.
Rough Riders are all in!
Here in Frisco, we want our law enforcement and first responders to be people's friends and not the enemy like you may see in some communities. And so for us, Operation Blue Shield really fulfills the mission that we're trying to do here as a community, which is create that awareness and really strive to have a safe community and let our first responders know that they're valued.
Operation Blue Shield!
All right, you saw it, Operation Blue Shield. I love that. There were a lot of mayors represented there, police officers, et cetera, et cetera. How did it make you feel to just get a little recap and remember.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I loved it. And you were wonderful. And what everyone doesn't know, it was like 102.
Oh,
so when we're in this little place to get our photograph taken, it's like 145.
Oh, wow.
So, and they kept saying, go back in, go back in. It's like anything to promote this cause.
Yeah.
But the fact that people showed up, and what they were doing is we wanted to take our first responders, which are police officers, fire, EMS, the mayor. We had a judge who deals in nothing but reentry programs. He brought his entire family. So you had mayors, we had city council people there. So you bring everyone together to have fun. What does that do? It's like you sit next to someone and you say, oh, you like baseball? Well, yes, I do too. Well, gosh, I didn't, well. But all of a sudden the barriers break down.
Yes.
So Dunkin' Donuts was there, and they were there for a specific reason. They opted to put several stores into our neighborhoods, and this is what the bishop and I were talking about. You create a safe neighborhood. All of a sudden, a business owner says, wow, I can put my investment in that neighborhood. I have to worry about my employees. If they're not safe going there and they're harmed, shame on me. But I need the community to help build the community. I just don't need to come in there and say it's got to be this way. I need their input with the first responders. We collectively grow it. And in that process, we work through black-white issues, brown issues, the education, I work in neighborhoods now where even the churches leave because it's not safe. When that happens, we've all lost. So from my perspective, one is a businesswoman and a person who started this, the faith-based community is pivotal. Christians are pivotal in changing this message in our country.
Okay, well, everybody has the little bracelet here, so let's put it. Put it on here, and she's got yours on, Harry. Okay, so here it is, right here. Tell us, what does this mean? Of course, we got the ribbon too.
All right. So on the ribbon that we do, we will give these to people. We'd love to have these across the United States, wrapped on every tree and wrapped on every arm. The yellow represents the community. That's all of us. So, and anyone that you can possibly imagine. Kids, adults, everyone. The blue are our first responders. So again, mayors, emergency room people. So when they come in, they're emergency, they're first responder. You're either going to live or die if you've got an emergency. So sheriffs, fire, teachers, actually nurses. What we have failed to remember in this country is that people who occupy the blue happen to also be in the yellow. So they go to our same dry cleaners, our
their
same
husbands,
school.
wives,
Yes.
sons, daughters. Yeah.
You know, their children are Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, or at the Boys and Girls Club. We call this a unity reason, and that is a unity ribbon, and that is because this represents the United States, all of us together. So in many cities, we get our first responders, our church leaders and all, we adopt neighborhoods, we all go out and if I'm a tree, you put this around a tree, you staple it. So when a first responder goes home, he says, aha, they get the message, they're gonna work to change it. When a community leader or a small child goes in, they say, what's that ribbon for? Then it gives mom and dad an opportunity to say, we in our country are one. We are all together. We are not separate. And so the dialogue is the beginning. The outgrowth are the better schools, the safe places for churches, the better education. So schools are like businesses. You have to put them in a neighborhood that's safe because you do not want your children harmed on the way to school.
So I was thinking for pastors that are watching and say they would like to get involved, are you able to, at this point, to help churches connect with communities where they can go in and be a blessing to those communities?
We are. We're not in every city. I mean, we are a young organization.
But we want to be.
We want to be. We want to be national. Our biggest it's not a problem, it's a good opportunity, is that people come in and say, when can you come here? And and that is across the nation. So we're getting governors and senators and all who are saying, please come speak to us on Capitol Hill, because what we forget is the unity message. The outcome is the development of a safe neighborhood. The outcome is a safer environment, a more godly environment. And that's the reason why I reach out to the pastors and say, call us, because we have things called our Power of One speaker series. We do a lot of them in churches. We love to have the conversations where we can actually sit up there with a pastor, a police officer, in a church, and what do we talk about? We begin with race. We talk about how they felt when they were young and how the other person felt. And we bring up the old wounds in the sanctity of a church. What finer place to discuss, and at the end say, let us link arms and let's change this together.
That's good. Wow. So that's what's got to happen, where we've got to not only speak, but we've got to have action. Where we go into these communities, we have a place for men and women when they come out of prison to go back into society and have a chance at being successful. And the church has to step up. We have about 30 seconds closing remarks for us today.
Well, I want to say the church has got to remain in place even in the tough positions. Gentrification, revitalizing communities often happens by raising property values. Churches move away from need. We need churches to be funded to stay where they are and to be an agent for healing. If we'll start with the church and bring wise counselors like her in, I think we can change things very quickly. If the church is run, we abandon urban areas, then they will become the waste place that we're afraid of.
Well, we are out of time. I want to thank Bishop Jackson and Toni Pickens for joining us at the table. For more from Bishop Jackson, you can visit him online at www.thehopeconnection.org. I like that, thehopeconnection.org. And to find out more about Operation Blue Shield, be sure to check out www.operationblueshield.org. If you're watching today and maybe you have felt the sting of injustice, prejudice, or violence, racism, I want you to know that God loves you today so very much, and He wants to heal those wounds. He wants to heal your heart. And we have prayer partners that are standing by right now to pray for you. That's why we have that toll-free number on the screen. It's available 24 hours a day. And you can call. We'd love to pray with you, encourage you today. I believe that today can be a new start for you. So you be encouraged. Also, you can go to daystar.com and click on prayer. If you have a specific prayer request you'd like for us to pray about, we pray over those prayer requests every day, literally prayer requests from all over the world. As always, don't forget to share your thoughts about today's program by leaving us a comment on Facebook or Twitter. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Toni. Thank you so much, Bishop Harry Jackson. And ladies, we'll see you next time. Bye-bye for today.
This has been a Daystar Television production.